right, Todd, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about Final Caller. This movie was great. I felt like I was resonating with some of the characters. The gore scenes were fantastic, and it was over the top, but in such a great way.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. We put a lot of heart and soul into it and tried to, like we always do, tried to just kind of bring a different style to everything. Each movie we make, I want to do a different style and a different kind of take on things, and we tried to do something kind of original. I was kind of proud of it.
That's awesome. My first question is though, how did you come up with the idea for Final Caller?
Basically, I have a radio show that's syndicated worldwide, and it's called Night Watch. And I'm friends with Art Bell and George Norrie, and we're kind of always, doing the late night thing. And I thought to myself, what if an overnight host wasn't a nice guy like we are, but was kind of like a jerk like Howard Stern to the 10th power?
Hmm.
And what if we took that, and his biggest fan was a serial killer, and so he wanted to call in and kill someone live on the air. And then it kind of evolved from there. And what if the host was a jerk and didn't believe him, and then the serial killer would have to prove that he's telling the truth, and then it would get everyone involved at the radio station, and it just became a big kind of an idea that kind of snowballed and turned into this thing. And I was really really pleased with the way it turned out and the way the characters all interacted, and I just was really happy with that.
That's awesome. I gotta tell you, man, Douglas Epps really went crazy with the role of Roland. I mean, he was fantastic. He was like the most pissed off person in the entire world, and the fact that he just pretty much had he's already having a bad day, but it was just going to be a worse night for him, and he was just great in that role.
Well, I appreciate that. I know Douglas will. We kind of really planned his character by he was not the original first lead for Roland Bennett. We had another actor, and because of some health issues, this whole thing happened right on the edge of the pandemic when it started. So we had all kinds of troubles,
Yeah.
and we lost the main actor. But then Douglas was more like what I wanted the character to be, and we were able to mold that. And I said, go watch every Dennis Hopper movie you can get your hands on, not to copy him, but because Dennis Hopper has the ability to show you multi layers in a character. And he could be a bad guy, but you can also see a vulnerability in there. And that's what I wanted Douglas to show. Like every once in a while, we'll let you see through the cracks at the real guy inside there. It's just a scared little guy, but he has this facade of this anger and this big wall that he puts up to keep everyone out. And he is genuinely a insecure, scared individual. And so it kind of evolved from there. I wanted him to do a performance where he's a real jerk, but if you look close, you can see through all that, and you can see that underneath it all, it's just an act.
Yeah, and what I got from it was, in a way, I felt like it was Blood Feast meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in terms of the lead character being a DJ, and yes, the murders were on the air. So instantly, my mind thought of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 when Stretch listens to the yuppies getting killed by Leatherface, and
That's
then
true. Yeah.
Blood Feast in terms of the outsider killing these people to appease a goddess. I thought of Blood Feast right away, especially with the gore factor. I instantly thought of Herschel Gordon Lewis because that movie was like groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And if you really look at it too, the the whole thing about the outsider was his story keeps changing when he's talking about this. So he has to do this for this reason, and then he changed it to this reason, and then he's doing it for this reason. And
Yeah,
so you kind of ask yourself, is it really for a cult thing? Is it really for a goddess? Is it really just because he's nuts? And I kind of wanted that because I want him to be so unhinged that you don't know if you can believe anything he says, because he's always spouting these crazy diatribes. And I've had people ask me, is that your political statement? I'm like, hell no, it can't be anyone's political statement, because he during these rants, he he kind of goes against everything he says in another rant. So it's like this rant says this thing and this rant says that thing, and he contradicts himself here and there. But that's because I want him to be completely unhinged to the point where you don't know. He contradicts himself constantly with those diatribes he goes on, where he's like just spouting crazy stuff, and all the people are like, "What is this guy even talking about?" kind of thing.
yeah. And I gotta tell you, the gore scenes, like I said, they were fantastic, and there were some like I wasn't even expecting to come out. But and then there comes the biggest major twist, like in the like almost hour mark, involving the character of Jennifer, and I was just like, what did just happen? Because my jaw literally dropped when I saw that twist, and I just went, "Whoa, wait a minute!
I
How
love that.
how did
I
that
love it.
how did that come about? Like at the like without spoiling so much, how did that come about? Like where did that idea come from?"
As I was writing it, I was thinking, okay, everyone's got their own quirks in this thing. You know, Roland's a little bit tapped. The outsider's definitely crazy, and she seems kind of normal. She's almost subdued, and then you've got the engineer, the tech guy, who's obviously normal, and he's kind of trying to figure the whole thing out himself. And I thought, what would happen if something flipped to completely change the rules of this movie? And that twist popped into my head because I was like, what if this character loved Roland so much that she would do anything to keep him or to keep them as a couple together? And then it kind of evolves from there into what happens, where it flips and crazy stuff's going on. And I just love that part because it really does seem to take people by surprise. Like people don't really see it coming. And then bam, when it hits, it's like, oh, of course, this is exactly what it needs, because it just seems at that point in the movie everything's going along real good, like a chugging train, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just derails, but it doesn't fall down. It goes onto a whole nother track and takes off a whole different direction.
That's awesome. And the special effects, I love that horror films now are back to practical effects because I was getting tired of the CGI stuff. And you really upped the ante with this one. I felt like I was watching an homage to like the days of Romero and Herschel Gordon Lewis. I mean, the gore factor was amazing. And I'm hands down, I'm not going to tell everyone what happened, but Jason, in my opinion, has the best death of the entire movie because this was that had to be the best. That's like my has to be my favorite like shocking kill of the movie.
Yeah, that's pretty heinous. Someone told me that was their kill of the year. They put it on as their kill of the year, and I said, "Well, I really appreciate that. It is pretty twisted." We did kind of go to the H.G. Lewis. Herschel was a friend of mine, and it was kind of an homage to him. But even more so, we went Fulci, full on Fulci with the way I wanted the blood to look a certain way and to have a certain visceral quality to it. And I really appreciate what you said about the effects, because really our producer Amanda was kind of in charge of the effects department. Anna Lee worked on it. She's very talented. And then like all the rest of us threw in too. Like we're all doing effects just to get it to be as over the top as possible. That's what it's all about. We wanted this to be a roller coaster ride, and we wanted to entertain people, and we wanted to take it off the rails into a whole new area. And right when you think, oh, they're never going to do that, we do it. Not only do we do it, we go beyond it. We
Oh,
just like,
just like the setup for Jason's death. I'm like, I saw what's about to happen. Like, oh, that's no, this is not going to happen. No way. And then it happens, and my mouth literally my jaw dropped, and I'm like, but it reminded me of 2001 Maniacs, where a certain character dies the same exact way. But only you up the ante with the gore. I think yours is a lot better than that one.
well, I sure appreciate it. I had forgotten that someone went that way. What I was doing in one of my early movies called Nightmare Asylum, a film I disowned from way back in like 90 or 91, we had a death that was the exact same death, but we didn't have the know-how or the money to do it the way I wanted to. So when it came time to do Jason's death, who I happen to really like as a character, I thought, let's do something extra heinous to Jason. And I went back to Nightmare Asylum and pulled that effect into my mind, and wrote that into the script so we could do it again and do it right and really, really shock some people. And that was the whole idea of it.
That's awesome. How long did shooting take, and what challenges did you have to face during production?
Well, shooting took quite some time. When the lead actor got ill, we lost about 2 weeks worth of shooting. A lot of scenes had to be redone by moving the cast around and everything, and that was a challenge. And then, of course, COVID hitting right about 2/3 the way through. That was a major challenge because I mean you can't do anything. They actually shut down everything. They said, you have stay-at-home orders, and we're like, how the hell are we supposed to do this? So we did it anyway, of course, and just we're safe about it, very safe. And we knew each other, we knew what we were doing, and we stayed safe during the week. We shot, a few days on the weekend, and during the week we'd stay safe. And we just kind of pulled together on it and just said, we still have to finish this. And a lot of actors were like, I wonder if the police are going to bust us when they see us doing this, because like for Jason's effects scene, half of that was shot indoors, and the other half we had to like create that same scene outside, because there was so much blood that we didn't want to take a chance of ruining a building. So we went outside to shoot that in a parking lot, basically.
Oh
And we
wow.
kind of redid everything so it would match the lighting and everything. And it was kind of a pain, but it really was worth it, because then we didn't have to worry about the blood. We could just spray as much as we wanted.
Yeah,
And
the lighting helped because too, because it didn't look like it was outdoors at all. It looked
right.
like it was in the same scene, so that's what really helped as well.
Yeah, that was what it was all about for me. It was about, basically just trying to match everything. We took this piece, some wood out there. We tried to match this. We took a chair. We matched that, and then we matched the lighting. And that was what it was all about. Was just making sure that we had everything as close to the original set as possible. And that was a challenge. All the effects are a challenge. They always are. Things never go right, and you have to redo them. And then you just got to be patient and keep going. And the whole thing with this was, it was extra challenging because we didn't have an investor, we didn't have Indiegogo, we didn't do any of that. Indiegogo upset me because of the U.S. Postal Service, because we did a couple of really successful Indiegogos, but then I was shipping stuff to people, and half the time they wouldn't get it, and then they would get mad at us, like it's like I don't want them to see the movie or something. And so then they were yelling about it, and I'm like, sometimes I would send 3 perk packages to one group of people, and I'm like, man, this is getting old. I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And yeah, it's just one of them things where it was so frustrating. I didn't want to do that again.
Yeah,
So I thought, okay, it cost me a fortune last time with the postal service and all this. I'm just gonna finance this one on my own with a couple of credit cards or whatever. A couple of guys threw in here or there, whatever we could afford. And I guarantee you the budget of this would not buy you groceries for a month. I promise. But I think it looks like we spent a hell of a lot more than that.
yeah, it does look like it. But overall, I think you did a fantastic job with the film, and I hope
Well,
I hope people
well,
get to see it when it comes out July 5th.
well, I really appreciate that, man. The whole key here is entertaining people.
Yeah,
When I was a young lad, or whatever you call it, a young dude in the movie theater, and I was having a really bad day, which it does happen. We all have bad times, and peer pressure, family fights, whatever's going on, teacher problems. You need a break once in a while. Maybe you got a problem with a job. And so I would go to the movie and I would watch, a horror film like Phantasm or City of the Living Dead or whatever. I'd hang out there for 90 minutes or 2 hours and just really escape all the problems that I faced as a kid. And I thought, that's why I do this, is I want to hopefully have the honor of doing that for someone else. I've never taken a salary in 30 years. I always put every dime I get into the movie and into the project, because I figure if I could take the money and pay myself, or if I could, buy a werewolf, I'm going to buy a werewolf and make it look as good as we possibly can. And that goes for a lot of my crew as well. We do this because we really love it, because we have a passion and we want to give back to the genre that we love and to film in general and to audiences all over the world. We just want to entertain them. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed. I've been doing this a long time. My early stuff I kind of disown, because I feel like, man, my short films were better than those early features were, and I'm just like, what was going on? But at the same time, you have to start somewhere. And even back then, my number one goal was just to entertain people, tell a good story. And as I get older and I learn more, and every day on the set is a learning experience, or it's a wasted day. There's no other way about it.
yeah,
So I learn more every day, and I just want to tell better stories for folks like you, because you are so important to this equation, man. All of you guys, people who do interviews and who promote this stuff and who love this stuff, you're the maybe the most important part of the equation, because we make it, but without you, who is there to watch it? And so really, together we have a relationship. the filmmaker and the audience. And I think sometimes filmmakers, they forget that, and they forget that we're trying to tell you a really cool story so you can escape into this world that we've created for a few hours and forget all the troubles of the day or whatever. And the bottom line is, whether we succeed or whether we fail, we're trying our hardest with all of our hearts and all of our passion to do something good for you guys. And you're doing the same thing for us. You're out there, you're watching it, you're promoting it, you're talking about it on your show. And that's what it's all about, man. It's this great relationship that we have together. And I don't ever want to lose that. That's why I'm kind of glad I'm still doing the low budget stuff, because I think it's a lot easier for me to communicate with everybody at this level than maybe if I was in the studio system where getting to me would be almost impossible,
Yeah, I hear that. And as I say, if you're the studio system, I mean, the critics who do the studio system films, they could be quite vicious at times if it's, you
They
know,
are.
but I love indie films because I feel like they're more creative than the studio system films anyway. I can always watch an indie flick and, I can appreciate, and like you said, I escape into that world. It makes me more involved when it's something original rather than something that's redundant and done over and over and over again. And plus, I may be just a film blogger, but I'm also a fan. I've been a lifelong fan of films. I've started watching horror movies at like 6 years old, and my my taste for gore has risen as of late. It's becoming becoming more into the gore stuff than I was as a kid. I couldn't watch a Fulci film. I couldn't watch Demons, Bob Lamberto Bava's Demons. I couldn't watch that as a kid, but now I can watch it and I'm like, this is what I missed so many years ago. But I look at it now and I'm like, this is amazing. And seeing your film, it's just like makes it like my hands down, it's one of my favorite horror films this year, and I've seen quite a few. This is one of my favorites, hands down.
Well, that means so much to me, really. And again, that's the whole reason we do this. It's really, it's an honor to be able to do this, to have this opportunity. And then the fact that, I'm able to meet so many great people like yourself. We go to film festivals and we go to conventions all over the country. And there's been a few indie guys that are critics that have been kind of, and I don't really, if someone doesn't like my movie, that's okay. I can't please everybody, but they've been kind of mean, and that's kind of hard because they've gone out after us and they've tried to hurt some of our actors and sent like hate mail to our emails, and just really weird. And that, when I speak out against that, of course, everyone claims I'm a jerk. But I'm not going to sit there and let someone trash Linnea Quigley and try to hurt her career. I'm going to defend her because that's what people do for each other. And I run
She's
this
a legend.
company.
I mean, I don't know why anyone would do that.
Oh, they do. They have. And
It's
I'm
ridiculous.
like, for me, I run Extreme Entertainment like a family business, and like we're all part of a big family, and I take care of my own. And so, yeah, I'm going to defend them once in a while, but I don't. You just never know. Someone gets kind of crazy about it and goes off the deep end, and then you just have to say, hey, let's hate the movie all you want, but let's not take it to someone's house. Let's not take it to their personal lives. Let's just all get along and have a good time. Because ultimately, who wants to make a movie to make your life crummy? We're just trying to do a good thing. If it didn't work, hey, we apologize. Maybe we'll hit you the next time. Maybe you'll like it better then.
Exactly. And you made a good point about the horror community, especially. I remember talking with Spooky Dan Walker a few years ago. He pretty much said it. The horror community is a family, basically. Whether you're a filmmaker, an actor, or even a fan of the genre, if you have a love for the genre, it doesn't matter whether you're an actor, a filmmaker, or a fan. If you got that support, you got a support system.
I figure we all look out for each other. That's the whole key right there.
Yeah. So finally, what's next for you after with Final Caller coming out next week? What's next for you that in the works that's coming up?
Well, we've been kind of hard at work on a top secret project for Prime Television. It's a Amazon Prime project, and it's been going for a couple of years. We're trying to kind of put the finishing touches on that right now. I'm doing some sound work on it right now. I can't tell you the title yet. I haven't been given the okay. It's all weird when you're doing things at this level because I'm used to just going out there and doing press and talking about anything. But there's actually a little gag order in place. But I can tell you it's a genre thing. It takes place in the exploitation genre. It's like a drive-in movie homage.
Oh.
And it's a series, and it's something that I'm very, very proud of. We have you know, I like to think every project we get better and better, and we rise up the ladder. And on this particular project, I think we've kind of probably jumped as much as I jumped when I did House of Forbidden Secrets from the old stuff. I like to think of that as a jump from this to, you know, what we just did. This Amazon Prime thing is just a big jump up in quality, and I'm just really proud of it because it was damn near impossible to do over a long period of time, and a million setbacks and COVID and everything else, and we still managed to do this and have a good time with it. And I think people will be surprised because it's not a horror thing, even though there's elements of horror in there, of course, because that's me. But this was in my wheelhouse because I'm a big drive-in. I grew up in a drive-in. I was practically raised there. I was there every weekend, and these films of this genre, like Foxy Brown and Dolomite, as anyone knows, my first big actor, everyone's like, hey, who do you want to work with? Who do you want to work with? And I chose Dolomite. You know, I chose Rudy Ray Moore, and all of that stuff is really encapsulated in this series. It's a very cool, very awesome drive-in exploitation kind of thing. So I think everyone's going to like it.
That's awesome. That's cool that you grew up with the drive-in. I grew up with the home video market of the 80s. So, and
Not the
that
same
also
thing, really.
that also worked. Yeah, that practically was like you went from that to that, and you know, I grew up with the home video market. So the VHS tapes, which thankfully I still collect to this day, thank God. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
so I know how it is with the exploitation genre, and I'm such a fan of and I grew up watching the old kung fu flicks of the 70s and the 80s, and and then it graduated into all
Oh,
different.
you're going to love this.
I'm pretty sure I will.
Yeah, this is all about the kung fu and everything else. And send me your address, man, and I'll ship you out a VHS of Final Caller.
Oh, awesome. All right, yeah, definitely. I'll let me go ahead and put it in the chat.
Just send it to me on email or send it
Okay.
to me through Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And
all right, cool.
that's the easiest way. And that way I can just hand it off to my assistant and she can zip one out to you.
All right, sweet. So Final Caller will be out on July 5th. Those who love horror, want to go back to the old school style of like gore and everything, they're gonna love Final Caller, especially with the story and the twist mixed in. And Todd, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk about it.
Hey man, thank you. It's because of you guys that we exist at all. So I really appreciate it. And you have a great night.
You too, and you take care and stay safe.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.